Success transcends cities. As one of the world's most respected business leaders, I know what it takes. Join me now as I sit down with fellow leaders and we share our insights into how you can be successful. My name is Jeffrey Hayzlett, and this is All Business. The headlines tell us we're in the midst of the greatest reset. Unemployment may be down to pre-pandemic lows, but businesses of all sizes are having trouble finding workers. It's all about job hopping and great resignation. Today's guest is trying to solve that. Evan Sohn is the chairman and CEO of Recruiter.com, a company that helps organizations fill their talent pipelines. Evan, welcome to All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett.
Hey, Jeffrey, thank you so much for having me on your show. Big fan, and really, thank you so much. I'm staying on for the next one, so I got to learn more about my portfolio in the next session, but really, thank you so much for having me.
Well, we do a lot of programs, 300 or 400 a year, so this is great to be able to have it, and we're glad to have you on this one as we talk about jobs. Now take us beyond the latest job report. You work with companies both big and small. How hard is it right now to hire people?
Harder than it was 2 years ago. Actually, we really believe that we could break this up throughout this conversation, but we believe and predict that the U.S. economy will spend $50 billion more hiring in 22 than it did in 2019. Now, so let's break all this stuff up, right? So you mentioned a few things in one breath, but there are a bunch of trends that are going on at the same time. So the first two are really what we will call episodic, right? These one-time things. So we have this 3.9% unemployment rate. You can't find anyone to go into a factory, or it's hard to find workers, 10.5 million open jobs and throughout the different job boards. You walk by a restaurant and they're understaffed. This is all episodic. The next level, right? We had this great resignation, something we actually called, I think about a week before they announced the numbers of people that quit in August. Now, what most people don't know is that in the U.S., there is regular turnover, right, in companies. It's between 22 and 25%. Let's go 22%, just for argument's sake. That turnover every year, right? So financial services might have 15%, retail might have 80%, and you have 100 people, and every year 20 are going to leave in some industries, 30 in others, 18 in others, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what the Great Resignation was really about is people not leaving, right? Your producer, he decided he's having a great time. He doesn't want to leave, but as soon as the world's opening up, okay, you know what? I'm out. And it could be a variety of reasons, Jeffrey. It could be, I've been waiting to leave. I just didn't want it. I moved to Florida. I don't want to go back to in-person in New York. I never want to go back in person. I only want to go back in person. A variety. I don't have childcare anymore. A variety of reasons about this Great Resignation. And we're going to see that peter off probably by the summer. But what's really replacing it is something that was actually occurring right before the pandemic, and what we actually call the job hopper economy. So what you're really starting to see, and let's go back not too long ago, the day and age of getting the gold watch for being at a company for 25 years is just over.
Those are gone.
Just doesn't exist anymore. In fact, I would say to you, Jeffrey, if you saw 5 years ago a resume of a 30-year-old who'd been at the same company for 10 years, let's assume it's not McKinsey or Google or something, Goldman Sachs, you would use words to describe that individual: loyal, committed, steadfast, right? That's kind of how you would describe them.
Right.
If I asked you now, 2022, a 30-year-old been at the same company for a decade, you'd probably use words like lazy, risk averse. You might even say, what, does no one want to offer this person a job? So this has really created this job hopper economy. About 2 months ago, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, wrote an article begging employees, please stay at a company for at least 24 months. And this was really in response to a survey that came out that said 60% of all millennials had no problem leaving a job within the first 6 months. So if all of a sudden now, let's break this all up, right? I have this desire to leave. I have all these great opportunities. Wages are up. I want to choose how I want to work. I want remote. I never want to go in. I want to go in every other month, all this other stuff. And interviewing is now a piece of cake, right? No longer do you have to bring the suit to the office, right? And talk about a funeral that you got to go to for the afternoon, and this whole lying about going on an interview, right? We won't, Yeah, we've all done. Oh, where are you going? Oh, my uncle's sister died. It's so sad. I have to go to the funeral. Like we've all done that. And interviewing today is all done online, video interview. So I could work from anywhere. I could hire, a company could hire from anywhere. Interviewing is a 15-minute, video interview. Wages are up. And if once we remove the stigma of leaving a company, right? I don't have to be at a company for 4 years anymore, 5 years to demonstrate my, incredible prowess. I could leave whenever I want. All of a sudden now you're going to just see this massive churn. And if you hit 30% churn, and Microsoft economists were thinking, another economist thought the number would be like 40% this year, but at a 30% churn above the 22% equates to over $50 billion. The average cost to hire a non-executive is $4,425. And that those numbers go back to 2021. So just time the numbers. It's a pretty crazy number. So finally, I know this is a long-winded answer, Jeffrey. While the November numbers only added 200 jobs, and we all keep looking at, how many jobs are being added? There were 6.7 million people hired in November of 21, right? Not the 200,000 represent the new jobs that were created. And for your Wall Street audience, it'd be the equivalent of looking at the health of the housing market based on how many new homes were built, right? How many people are homeless and how many people are and how many homes are being built. That doesn't deliver the message of the health of the housing market. You're looking at first-time home buyers, you're looking at mortgage applications. And I think the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers are really from a time where once Jeffrey has a job, he's there for 30 years, next. Move on. Who wants a job? Here's a job, go. And I think there's far more dynamics that are taking place today, certainly in a post-pandemic world.
One of the biggest things I think is that executives just don't get it. They don't understand about the current job market. Why is that?
It's because it's something that no one really talked about, right? When we talk about supply chains, you think about semiconductors, right? And so all of a sudden now, this is really top of frontline conversation. You saw Goldman Sachs report numbers last week, right? And they had, what was their miss? And if you peel away the onion, the miss was they spent more on hiring and retention than they had expected. And that's what we're predicting, that companies all of a sudden now, and by the way, the leading indicator here was we saw a huge surge in recruiters, right? Wall Street Journal had an article, the hardest thing to recruit for is recruiters. And we actually have the largest platform of recruiters and 30,000 on our platform. Just an amazing platform for recruiters, and both on-demand recruiters that convert over to full-time. We do that all the time for different companies. But that's a leading indicator. Companies started to stock up on recruiters, knowing that the talent acquisition challenge of 22 is going to be fierce.
Yeah. Do you think employers are going to get it though, Evan? I mean, because a lot of young people are coming to their employers now and going, I don't want to work in the office anymore. I want to work totally from home. And that's not been in our vocabulary in the past, or at least anything in terms of conception of this is the way it's going to work. And so I think our first reaction for most employers is no way. They ain't going to happen. I want you in the office. I want to see you around. Even if I'm not in the office, I want to see you in the office. Do you think employers are going to be able to get that and understand it?
The answer is yes. We started calling it the great reevaluation. You just put the word great in front of anything, and that's what we're talking about today. So let me give you another image of it. Running a business today, you have to balance the people that want to work remote, the people that want to work hybrid, the people that want to work in the office, the people that are more metric-based, the people that are time-based, all these other things. But guess what? If I'm rebuilding my company and 20, 30% are leaving anyway, I get to decide as a business owner, as the executive, as you say, how do I want to hire back, right? And by the way, there's something very refreshing about that. Hey, you only want to work remote, and I don't want you to work remote, so I'm not going to hire you. I'm only going to hire the people that want to work within the culture that I want to create. And by the way, I got called by a number of reporters, what do you think of JP Morgan forcing everyone back in the office? I said, that's their decision, right? They're optimizing for, hey, they know that their training program requires in person. Now, Shopify, they went 100% virtual. And guess what? They love it because they're in Ottawa. And they're attracting engineers now from Facebook and Google who want to work at Shopify, but don't want to move.
By the way, who wants to live in Ottawa?
Right. Who wants to live in Ottawa? So what's really interesting is this sort of work from anywhere mantra that people are talking about. We actually predicted in December that work from anywhere is going to morph into hire from anywhere. I now could hire anyone from anywhere. And what that really means is that everyone in this country is now more valuable than they were 3 years ago. Everybody, from the Java developer to the chief product officer to the person willing to walk into a restaurant or a factory, everyone is more valuable because everyone sort of recognizes, here's what I need. And if I need Jeffrey to work for me, right, it doesn't matter what that salary is or whatever balance I have to create for you. And I think you're going to see companies take talent acquisition and talent effectiveness to a degree very similar, in my opinion, to the way we looked at security, right, in the late 90s, 2000s, right? No one really cared about security until late 99, 2000. We just didn't really talk about it. And all of a sudden now, every real company has a chief security officer, IT security, network security, intrusion detection, firewall prevention, all these other things. And I think that talent acquisition, is really going to play, and I would say talent acquisition and effectiveness is really going to start to become part of the standard language of every company, large and small.
You said hire from anyone. Do you think the trend of working from home, do you think this is a trend that's permanent, is it a hit to the corporate culture?
I think it's a hit to the corporate cultures where there is this challenge of inside the organization of the remote workers from the in-person workers. And what it really does is to say, used to be that the hiring manager, assuming there was a hiring manager, said, look, I need to fill that seat. So I need to fill that seat with someone with the skill set. Now I actually have to say, I need to fill that seat with someone, A, with that skill set, and B, that aligns with the corporate culture that we're trying to create, right? Goldman Sachs, if they're trying to fill their desks with people that are coming into the office, can't attract people that don't want to come into the office. So what happens now? Well, they have to find jobs of people that don't care about that want to work remote. That's why I said it's kind of refreshing because we're not dancing around anymore. Let's talk about recruit.com for a second. We're about 70 something people in the company, but we've always been virtual. So, where culture starts to have a hard time is where 80% of the people are in person and 20% are virtual. And you're trying to build a culture that, how do we make all that 20% feel really good, et cetera. But you know what? You got to look at companies that were always doing that. Salespeople were always out in the field. We were years ago developing development operations. Oh, we have a software development team here, a software development team here. So we always had, or many companies, these satellite offices, these satellite areas, and how do you keep people all together? So it's certainly something that's at the top of mind of folks, but I think it's not an either or. You and I grew up in the VHS or Betamax world, right? HBO or Showtime. We're in an and both now. We're really in, right. How do I make this work? What do I want to optimize for? And how do I move forward in a cohesive fashion?